Yeah, what a weekend of college and NFL football. Of course, the playoffs have been a phenomenal watch. Congratulations to Liam Cohen and Dave Canales. With valiant efforts in their playoff game that fell short, they managed to, as it turns out, play one more game than the Buccaneers did. And that's the playoffs, right? You know, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of fans upset with Todd Bowles, blew a chance to win the NFC South and an opportunity to play the Rams, who did not play well at all. And Carolina came oh so close to winning that game, probably should have. And then, and then Liam Cohen, where they win 13 games or something like that, hosted the Buffalo Bills, came down to the wire, lost that game to the Bills. Trevor Lawrence ends it with an interception. Not sure it was totally on him. But that's the thing about, you go through the regular season and everybody, gets rides the roller coaster. You go up, you go down. The goal is to win the division, right? Win the division or get a wild card, somehow get in the playoffs. And the Bucs were very disappointing that they didn't do that, and they should be, because when you start 5-1, 6-2, you got to finish the deal, and they did not. Okay, so hey, all the criticism, all the changes, everything that comes with that was deserved, but the season ends the same way for 31 teams, and that is you go home without the Lombardi Trophy. And it's really disappointing when you host a playoff game and you lose in the first round, like especially games that were as close as those. I mean, those were, one play here, one play there, right? But they both had great years. I thought the Rams played a very similar game to the one that they lost in Carolina a few weeks ago. And I thought that, Jacksonville just got beat by a better quarterback. I mean, the drive, that is made at the end of that game, when you look at what Josh Allen did, he put on the cape and he became Superman. And that's what we've been waiting for, right? I think it was their first road playoff victory in like 9 years or 20 years. I don't even know. But for Josh Allen to make that drive and, pretty much, get pushed into the end zone or whatever it was, that was impressive. And that's big time stuff right there. I thought Lawrence played well. The last interception at the end of the game kind of went off the receiver's hands, whatever. But he had a chance to go down there and score. Every game was like until the 16-3 game with New England and the Chargers. Every game had like 4 or 5 lead changes in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's a crazy. Normally, and we always talk about this. And granted, since it's gone to 14 teams, it's been a little different than it was 12.
Mm-hmm.
But normally, wild card weekend, the top 2 teams had a bye,
right?
So then it was 3-6 and 4-5, and they'd be blowouts.
Exactly.
And you'd start going, "Oh, this team's going to go all the way." It was over. It was over.
You don't want to play
Monday.
them.
Yep.
That's right.
But they were playing, 5 and 6 instead of 1 and 2. Who
and
were rested.
You forgot the good teams were sitting at home.
And then the next weekend, then it'd be a reality check.
Right.
That's kind of the way it used to be. Now that there's only one team gets a bye in each conference.
Yeah.
But there's more parity than ever.
Yeah.
And these games were fantastic. Like, normally you see some blowouts in this round. You didn't.
No.
I mean, New England Chargers, who are playing right now, is the closest to a blowout you're going to get.
Right.
And it's, a 2-score game.
It was 9-3 until the fourth quarter. I mean,
it
winds up 16-3, but yeah. Yeah, no, they were back and forth, big plays, long drives, turnovers, everything you could ask for. I thought, Carolina really had a chance. I thought Bryce Young played extremely well, their quarterback, and did some nice things. It just, when Matthew Stafford needed to make a drive at the end, he made it. And he didn't play a particularly good game, but I guess he went out there before the final drive and said, okay, let's cut their heart out. And he did it, which is kind of a cool anecdote when you might say that 10 times and do it once, but he actually did it. And it was, it was interesting atmosphere. It just shows you, I want to say the Rams were nearly a double-digit favorite in that game for whatever reason, even though they had lost there the last time they played. But, man, that Carolina crowd was hype. It was loud. There was so much energy. And that's what – somebody said this to me, like the regular season, like, it's long and you kind of follow your team and all that. But to get in the playoffs, that's for your fans, to have a home playoff game.
Mhm.
That's really the reward for your fans that have stuck by you all year, and seen you get into this position. And man, they cut it loose. It was really,
Well, Cam Newton was back, and
oh yeah, it was crazy. It
I mean, he
was,
hadn't really been back there since he left, I think. I
I
mean, it's kinda been
know
a bad parting,
it has, yeah.
and they said, David Tepper called him personally to invite him and ask him to come.
Yeah, he comes out of the tunnel, people are going crazy, and they had the towels going, like, it was really cool, it was like that's what it's about, and I think that's what just go on my timeline, you'll find out how many people are disappointed that the Bucks weren't in that position. And that's the thing, like, they gave the Rams everything they could handle, and just a few weeks ago when the Rams went there after they pummeled Tampa Bay, and got beat. Everybody was saying, or a lot of people were saying, that the Rams might be the best team in football, not just the NFC. And then the same was true going into this game. It's like, well, they didn't make, got to go wild card, but hey, don't be surprised. The Rams might be the best team in the NFC. And Carolina gave them everything they could handle, and that's the thing. You really don't know once you get in the tournament. You got to get in the tournament. Now, as it turns out, the favorite won and all of that. Um, but still, there were tremendous games, could have gone either way. And then San Francisco, I got to be honest with you, the 49ers and the job that Kyle Shanahan has done and Robert Saleh, unbelievable with the number of injuries they've had, and they suffered another one. George Kittle has the Achilles. You can just see it roll up, and that's about a 9-month injury. We may not see him till about October of next year if you see him at all. But for them to go into Philly as undermanned as they were and come out of there with again another late drive, for a touchdown, um, and win that game, and now they go to Seattle, a team that they've obviously faced a couple times, in their division. Like, the job Shanahan and Salah has done, unbelievable, and John Lynch was down there, and I was kind of happy for them. I don't know if I was really pulling for them, but um, Philly fan, man, they were just turning on their own. They're eating their young. But did you see the play, the end around with the receiver throwing the pass for a touchdown
Yep.
to Christian? It was unbelievable, man. It was, what a call, what a moment, what great execution to see McCaffrey make that over the shoulder catch. That might be the call of the year, in that situation, to come up with that right there and then execute it. It's one thing to call it; it's another thing, obviously, to execute it. So, some really great big time football. Oh, and then we didn't even mention, how about the Chicago Bears game with the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, I think that might be the end of LaFleur.
I think so too, man. How many games can you blow? Oh my God! I mean, it's like, what were they? They were up with 9 minutes to go. I think they're up 17 or something like that. It was
Well, it's like the
incredible.
3rd lead this year they've blown, like, with a 5 minutes to go, a 10-point lead or something.
Yeah, he just got, what, too conservative, right? A little bit.
No
I don't
question.
know.
I mean, you scored touchdowns your first 3 drives
Right.
and then basically shut your offense down.
Pretty much.
Like, you don't trust your quarterback.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
And Jordan was playing well, and they were
Mhm.
playing well as a team. Now, I'll say this, their defense is not what it used to be, because without Micah Parsons, they were 0-5, maybe now 0-6. And of course, we know Dallas didn't do much without Micah Parsons either. But
Mhm.
still, in all, man, you got to give your defense a little help and keep the ball. You can't go 3 and outs, when you have a lead, and let them come back on you. But the Bears, man, they have some no quit in them, and they've won a lot of these games when they've
Yes, they
trailed
have.
like that.
Yep.
It's been phenomenal. You know, they believe in their coach. Ben Johnson has been phenomenal. I It's difficult to really decide who the coach of the year is, because I think there's three really good candidates, maybe four. Um, when you look at Shanahan, I think has done probably the greatest job given the amount of injuries he's had. But then Liam Cohen, Vrabel, obviously, and then Ben Johnson. And three of those guys are brand new. And that just shows you. Let me get the Bucks fans upset here. That shows you what coaching can do, or maybe in the case of the Bucks, not do this past year. Uh, and so yeah, all those guys have made just an enormous impact on their franchises. You know, so But the Bucs are going to have some new coaches. It just won't be Todd Bowles. And man, Bucs Twitter, Bucs X, whatever you want to call it, Bucs social media. Oh boy, on fire.
Well, yeah, because you're responsible for the coaching. They're taking their ire out on you.
I guess. I mean, I don't know what to say anymore. To appease these folks. Not that I really want to, or that I care that much, but and I appreciate the passion and all of that. But there's a lot of people that don't deserve to be on my timeline. So I had kind of a block party. Because I'll just say right now, if you guys follow me on Twitter or any other place, and you come at me with personal attacks, and I mean like vile personal attacks of players or coaches or me, you're not going to get anywhere. Okay. Because it's just, I don't have any need for it. Most of the time I ignore everything. But of late, like it's crossed the line. And so if you cross the line, go get your information somewhere else. I don't care. Okay. But, when I say things like, and people are insistent, they're like, well, you know, um, how can he still be coached? Is there anything we can do? Like, and really what it comes down to is this: support the team, don't support the team, like the choice, don't like the choice. That's business, right? And oh, by the way, business is good, just so you know. But the bottom line is the bottom line. And this team is owned by one family, and it's the Glazers. Okay. So direct all your ire and all your protests and whatever you want to do with your money to them, because no matter what anybody says, right? Me, John Romano, Steve Versnick, anyone on Twitter, no matter what your opinion is, there's really only one that matters, and that's the Glazer family. And they've already given their opinion. And their opinion is that Todd Bowles, right, deserves or is coming back to be the coach next year. Now, beyond that, I don't know. But that's their decision. They looked at the situation. They weren't naive to what was done or not done after that 5-1, 6-2 start. And they met with them. And I guess that the decisions were made that they were going to fire 5 coaches and 2 others were going to resign or going to retire, right? Nick Rapone and, of course, Tom Moore, who had good reason to, with his wife having had a stroke, etc. He's also almost 90 years old. But they made the decision that this is what we're doing. We're keeping Todd Bowles. Now, is that a business decision? Is that a financial decision? Well, yeah, every decision has some business ramifications. I mean, let's not be naive. It is a business, okay? Whether that's the main reason or it was unthinkable that they would move away from a guy that they guaranteed 3 years or whatever, I can't answer for them. And I don't think they're going to share it with me because I don't have their books, nor do they care to give them to me. But it is their decision, right? And so this notion that like I'm going to carry water for them, I don't have a say, right? Like John Romano wrote a column I thought was actually very good, and it kind of gave 3 options that you have when you look at what the Bucs have done, right? Keeping Todd Bowles, firing several defensive coaches, special teams coach, the offensive coordinator, etc. 5 different coaches, were sent packing. And what he said was, and I think this is pretty a lot of the sentiment that I get on Twitter is, hey, look, what you're saying then, Glazers, right? Or what Todd Bowles had said, remember in his postseason address, he said, well, I've won 3 straight division titles. I feel like I've earned it, meaning earned the chance to come back after this non-title season. But by firing 5 coaches, you're saying those same guys that helped you win those 3 titles, they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. And that's hard to swallow for a lot of people, and should be, right? It should be, because he wasn't in it by himself when he won the thing. But now he's kind of telling you that these are the reasons why we didn't win, or these are the coaches that weren't good enough for us to win. And I, and as Romano said, good luck selling that one to anybody, right? Well, accountability comes in a lot of forms, but again, they own the team, and they're willing to make these changes in the hopes, and it's just that they'll be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, like I said, boo them, don't support them, or whatever. But I think at some point you have to accept the fact that, John Harbaugh is not going to walk through the door. I had a guy write me and say, "Are you sure?" Because they called about Harbaugh. There was one report that they did. And I guess basically what was told to them, if you believe the report, is that, well, he wants his own GM or someone that he can, agree to or have control over. And so that was a non-starter. But I've had people write me and say, "Are you sure they wouldn't still fire Todd Bowles if John Harbaugh was interested?" I think they have their answers. He's not interested. I think they looked at that.
Well, I think if Harbaugh called them next week and said, "Hey, I'd like to come to Tampa," they would consider it.
Maybe not. I mean, yeah.
I think they consider it. I don't know if they would if they pull the
I don't know
trigger.
when that ship sails exactly, but he hasn't made a decision yet.
Yeah.
Right.
But him just saying I'm interested, no, they're not going to fire him because of that.
Right. He'd have to make a decision. And I think he's not even, going to the point of talking to people necessarily until this week, later this week. But
yep.
And I also think that he wanted to see what the full landscape is. Like you just mentioned, LaFleur, he could get fired, and I'm convinced he'll be in Green Bay. Because what does Harbaugh want? First of all, the money's going to be the money, right? I've seen reports $20 million a year. Whatever he charges, every team's going to have to pay that price, right? The price is the price.
Yep.
And the control is the control. If you're in it for me, I want to pick the GM or whatever. I mean, Liam Cohen got that deal in Jacksonville. You don't think Harbaugh's worth that? Or at least a guy that, is acceptable to him. But, I think the other part is, how can I win? Where am I going to go where I can win? What's the most important ingredient? How about a quarterback? That's what I'd be looking at. People are talking about Miami. Yeah, it sounds great. Who's the quarterback? The Raiders, you can get the number one pick. If you want Mendoza, you got him. Or anybody else for that matter. But you're a long way from having a team around that kid that's going to win. Okay? It's going to take some time. But if you go to a place like Green Bay, they should be better. They should be advancing. They should be moving on. And they have a quarterback. And they have pieces on defense, including Micah Parsons, who will be coming back. Right? I'm convinced that, Harbaugh was in no hurry, because if Buffalo had lost to Jacksonville, you might have had a head coaching change there. And who wouldn't want to coach Josh Allen? But now I always listen to Schefter, who is close to the Harbaughs, and he's like, according to my sources, Jim Harbaugh's a Midwest guy, Green Bay Packers, makes sense. And apparently his agent is the son of the former president of the Green Bay Packers. So there's already, some historical connections there. But we'll see where he goes. It's just that I'm sure that the Bucs and the Glazers would have done their due diligence on that. Now, here's a question for you. If Mike Tomlin loses Monday night, and you brought this up before the pod, that what if the same thing happens to him that happens to Harbaugh? What if they have a discussion and either somebody says you got to move on, or he decides it's time and he becomes a candidate?
Well, and LaFleur may be out.
And LaFleur could be fired. Yeah, absolutely.
Would the Bucs have interest in that? Who knows?
I mean, listen, he's a whether he's managed to figure out how to finish games, because that seems to be his problem, and he's made many questionable decisions. I go back to when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. I thought one of the worst decisions I've seen. In that game, the Bucs hit Scotty Miller at the end of the first half for a touchdown, and they're up like 21-10 or whatever. And Brady throws 3 interceptions in the second half. Played terrible. And Green Bay crawls right back in the game. And they got a chance to, I think, actually cut the lead or maybe even tie the game. But they're down there. It's like third down. Well, third down, Rodgers scrambles. And I think he could have scored. But he throws the ball back across his body in the end zone. It's incomplete. So you got 4th and goal at about the 4-yard line. And they need a touchdown to take the lead. There's only about 2 minutes to go, and they got 3 timeouts, but he opts to kick a field goal and make it like a 5-point game. And I'm like, "Pff," and the Packers never got the ball back. That was not a good decision by LaFleur. Another end of the game decision. So that might be what gets him fired ultimately. I still think he's a really good coach. So yeah, will it change now? I think that when you start calling around and doing interviews now, organizationally, I know that Bowles is involved in these interviews. I assume Jason Light is. But again, Todd Bowles told me he's the coach, and the Bucs released a statement saying we fired these guys and we're looking for new ones to replace them, with Todd Bowles quoted. So I think that ship has sailed, and the sooner everybody, and I mean those of you who can't accept that that's your fate, that's the Bucs' fate, that he's indeed the coach, the better, really. And then now we can focus on, okay, well, if he's the head coach, who's the offensive coordinator? And that's where it gets kind of interesting, because over the weekend, actually beginning last week, they started to virtually interview some candidates. And it started, I think, with Brian Callahan, the Titans head coach, who had been in Cincinnati, as you know, with Joe Burrow, but did not call plays when he was there. He did call them in Tennessee. And in fact, last year, after about 3 or 4 games, when they hadn't won a game, he gave it to somebody else. So it didn't go well, and he got fired before the year was over. But he's like one of the first guys they interviewed virtually. They also interviewed the Lions pass game coordinator, longtime coach of the Stanford University football team, David Shaw.
Yep.
He's had a lot of NFL experience as well. And then kind of an unknown, for me at least, Cardinals quarterback coach Israel Woolfolk also interviewed. And then finally, and I reported this before it happened, that they were going to talk to him, because I was talking with or texting with Raheem Morris. But Zach Robinson, the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator, is somebody that they interviewed on Sunday virtually. And he's interesting in that he's got a relationship. Of course, he's a McVay disciple, has a relationship with Baker Mayfield. He was out there when Baker was there for 5 weeks, teaching him a lot of the offense and stuff. Never called plays for the Rams. Has called plays for the Falcons the past 2 years. And if you know anything about what that's gone like, yeah, just look up the numbers because they've had some decent offenses, to say the least. But if you just consider what Robinson and his offense has done against the Bucs, particularly with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, 3 games over the last 2 years against Tampa Bay, Cousins passed for 1,158 yards in 3 games and 11 touchdowns while going 3-0. And just this past December, remember, they had 19 accepted penalties against them. They were down 14 with about 9 minutes to go. They still won. Cousins passed for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns in that 29-28 win, which, among others, was one of the losses that the Bucs suffered that kept them from being in the playoffs. So at minimum, and I know a lot of people, or some people that have been, again, on my timeline from Atlanta, are like, yeah, man, hire him. He sucks. But at minimum, we know he can beat Bowles' defense. Now, can he beat anybody else? I don't know. But I can see why, and this happens sometimes. I'm not saying this is the case, but sometimes you interview people to get insight. And if you're Todd Bowles and you've been beaten up the way he's beaten up their defense, you might want to talk to Zach Robinson and say, what am I doing wrong? Why is this so easy for you? And of course, he might mention the players and not the plays, like Bijan Robinson and Drake London and such. But that's an interesting guy. And not a lot of people, again, the Twitter sphere being what it is, they that guy sucks. I don't want him. But who do you want? And I still think, look, I think everybody's kind of waiting to see where Mike McDaniel, if he gets a head coaching job. I guess they're serious about him in Cleveland. The same is true with Tom Monken, who also interviewed there, right? So if one of those guys, who I think are like the top tier of coordinators that are available, presumably, if they don't get head coaching jobs.
Yep.
If they're available, if they don't get head coaching jobs, then I think the Bucs would have an interest in both. I think absolutely you would.
Mm-hmm.
And Monken, of course, has been here before. And he also was with Baker Mayfield for 1 year in Cleveland. He didn't call the plays, Freddie Kitchens did, but he loves Baker Mayfield. And I think he would have come here 3 years ago, but at that time they hadn't yet signed Baker, and it was just Kyle Trask. And so he went with Lamar Jackson, and that ended up going south. And he's even come out since and said, I didn't have a very good relationship with Lamar Jackson. Well, no kidding. But he's another guy that would be a top candidate here. So we'll see. I think there'll be more
But
that they will
here's
talk
the
to.
funny thing, and if
Yep.
you go back, and it's sometimes it's hard to remember how things went, but how many fans were excited about Dave Canales being hired?
They didn't even know who he was.
How many were excited about Liam Cohen being hired?
I think similar. I mean, Liam Cohen had been in the NFL,
Right.
but was actually coming from Kentucky.
Right. But the fan base was all excited that Josh Grizzard was hired.
Because he was here.
Right.
And it represented continuity, and yet Josh, wasn't good enough to keep his job.
No. So when you're getting all up in arms about this coordinator,
Right.
I want Todd Bowles and Jason Light and whoever else is in the decision making to hire the best offense coordinator.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, I don't know enough to tell you who the best one is.
Right.
I can tell you, look, Mike McDaniel, I think, is a really good offense coordinator. He's done it. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur is.
Yep.
If he gets let go. Yeah, those two I could go, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All these other guys, is Zach Robinson really good? I don't know. Todd Monken, I think, is.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2 national championships, although it was college, certainly helped
I think
him.
Lamar Jackson's a hard quarterback to be an offensive coordinator for.
Agreed.
I'm not saying that, maybe Todd wasn't the right fit there either for that. That's possible too. Like
it is, and yet he was
that's a completely different offense than anybody else is going to run. Because
True,
he's
but
such a unique talent, and
he was still an MVP while Todd was there.
Absolutely.
Of the league, so he still was productive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with you. It's not the traditional,
Right. But for the last 3 years, we've had to hire offensive coordinators here in Tampa Bay. 2 of them, nobody. I mean, I'm not saying you weren't excited, but you didn't know who they were.
Right.
Dave Canales was almost like the consolation prize. It was like you couldn't find anyone to want the job.
That's a fact, and I remember covering that, search and talking to people with the Bucs, and they were like, "Woo, you should have seen the ones that we turned down, right?" That and guys like the pitcher dude,
Dan Pitcher in Cincinnati,
Dan Pitcher from Cincinnati, he went back to be a quarterbacks coach, right? And behind Brian Callahan because he didn't think that Todd Bowles was on firm footing. That was the year after Bowles. He got the job. It was Brady's last year, kind of a disaster. They won the division 8 and 9, got absolutely slaughtered by the Rams. And it was hard to find people. And Canales was really a default choice because he had been in Seattle for 14 years. He'd been with Pete Carroll for 16, going back to Southern Cal. And they hired 4 different offensive coordinators and not him. He's in the building with Pete Carroll for all those years. Hadn't called a play since Carson High School, and they passed over him 4 times. And the only reason he took this job is because they asked. He said, "You know what? You don't turn down the first opportunity you get to be an offensive coordinator. You just can't." And he took it, and he wasn't great. In fact, he was less than great. Their rushing game was one of the worst in the NFL. And I've talked to players who don't think he's a very good play caller at all. But his buddy got the job as the Carolina GM and hired him as head coach. And hey, the optimist bully that he is, as Baker calls him, he's done a good job in turning around that Carolina program after 2 years. And Young is playing better and so on. So, but you're right. Nobody knew who Dave Canales was, and no one was really focused on Liam Cohen. I mean, I had to look him up, right? He's the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. He went back and forth from the Rams to Kentucky 2 or 3 times. And he never called plays with the Rams. But another guy that Baker met for those 5 weeks that he at least had some, connection with. And turns out Liam's phenomenal play caller. And it went great. And he had a career year. They got to find that again, I think Grizzard got too much heat. I don't think, you know, I understand why they fired him, but I don't think that it was as bad as maybe look. His numbers were better than Dave Canalis's. Let's say that, and he had every injury you could have to deal with that Canales didn't have, that Liam Cohen didn't have, and he also got off to a 5-1, 6-2 start. People just look at the ending, right? But when things were really dark and you didn't have Tristan Wirfs or Luke Gedeke or Ben Bredesen or, you got Graham Barton playing left tackle and you didn't have Bucky and you didn't have Godwin and you didn't have Mike. This guy was getting out to a 6-2 start with a rookie wide receiver and Baker, playing Superman with 4 comebacks. So back then, nobody thought that he was over his head. I think he's a sacrificial lamb in this whole thing. I think they don't have the luxury at this point of him growing into this position. At least Todd Bowles doesn't, right? So I think that's why he's gone. But yeah, this is a great point. You don't have to fall in love with one of these guys that they hire because you weren't in love with the other ones until they left. And then it became, hey, they should have kept this guy or that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was interesting. Okay, let's talk a little college football here in just a second. But first, hey, get on down to Breitling Boutique. You know them. They're our sponsors. They're at International Plaza Mall, the Breitling Company in Switzerland. Been making the best Swiss watches now for over 140 years at International Plaza for going on 6 years. And when you go there, it's the middle of the mall, second floor. It's a great store. Spend some time there. They're going to pour you a drink. They're going to tell you about all their beautiful products for the men, watches, the chronomats, the Navatimers that they have, women's watches as well. Their sports watches, really durable if your wife or girlfriend's on the go. These things are beautiful and they're going to hold up. And you got a choice of all these different colored wristbands to boot. But while you walk up to the store, look to the left there on the display case in the window. That's where you see the letters NFL. It's an NFL collection, right? There are 32 teams. Breitling has made 32 different team watches, including the Buccaneers. The Jaguars are right there up front. These are spectacular chronomat watches for men. They have the team colors as the face of the watch, the logo inside. They're spectacular. You have to go see our friends at Breitling Boutique. Get the best timepiece you've ever known. And let them know that you heard about it here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, college football, Nelly. What do you got? Indiana is going to the national title against Miami, and
it's kind of hard not to pick them.
They put a whooping. They're whooping everybody. Holy cow!
Well, I mean, I think Kirk Cignetti's going to be upset. I mean, they beat Bama by 35. They only beat Oregon by 34, so they're getting worse.
I love Cignetti, man. He's like, I smile like I don't, just because I'm, he's so grumpy and he's go all the time. He challenges these guys. He's never satisfied. And the players like, yeah, he's never satisfied. But man, is that football team good? And are they deep? And are they disciplined? And Fernando Mendoza, the real deal, dude. He's going to be the first pick in the draft. He's going to go to the Raiders or should. And what a story for him to go down back to Miami where he's from in his hometown. There's going to be so many IU fans. I think they're going to overwhelm the home team, which is the Miami Hurricanes. They travel, man. Those Indiana fans travel. And I know people that are, I think the lowest ticket is over $3,000 right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
well, I mean, the Indiana fans haven't had anything to travel for in years.
I know, right?
I mean, maybe most of their lifetimes.
I know.
As far as crazy. This goes. So it's
yeah.
They hadn't won a Big Ten title since 1967.
What a football team, though, and what a turnaround. And I think, look, we're naive to think it's not NIL, right? Like there's so much of this with Mark Cuban's money.
Oh, yeah, that's part of it, sure. But it's still I mean, how many five stars they got on that roster?
Oh, probably not many.
None.
Is it none? Wow.
They have 7 4-stars.
Wow.
Oregon, by the way, had something like 40 4 and 5 stars.
Wow.
On the roster. I mean, it's still what Kirk Cignetti is what they've said even when he was with Alabama is he was impeccable at picking out talent, like which guys got it, which guys don't, which guys to go after, not like he's like it seems like every talent he brings in is the right one. Like,
and he brought a lot of his guys from JMU too, from James Madison.
Yep.
That made that step up.
But I mean, it's I mean, NIL's helping get players there, and they've got a great transfer portal class coming in for next year already. They're like one of the top ones.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also picking out the right guys that are going to fit your system. They're going to do what you want. They're going to fit in. Like that team seems really tight too.
Oh yeah, they are. And the quarterback, he's special both as a player and as a guy. Of course, we know his story. His mom has MS and all this stuff, but just worked his way up from the bottom, like you said. Didn't have, um, all that recruitment and things, and so he's been tremendous, and they have a great team. I mean, they're deep, they're physical. Oh my God, are they physical? Miami is too. This is going to be a great game, I think. If Miami can keep from falling behind.
So the Miami offensive line averages something like 320.
Oh yeah, they maul you. Yeah.
The Indiana offensive line is like 270, or defensive line's 270. Like,
yep.
Can Indiana get pressure against that offensive line?
It's going to be tough.
That's good. That's going to be where Miami has the biggest advantage. Is that offensive line versus Indiana's?
They move you. They move people off the line. They reset the line of scrimmage. They really do.
Yep. By the way, and I may have the stat wrong, but it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the last team to hold Mendoza to no touchdowns and more than one interception in a game?
I don't.
Florida State last year.
Oh, wow.
When they won 2 games, but one of the games they won was against Cal when Mendoza was the quarterback.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah, he was with Cal. You're right.
Yep. But Florida State's the last team to hold Mendoza to those low levels.
Well, I still can't believe Florida State beat Alabama this year, which is, maybe not as difficult as it looks, but you think about where that program was after the first week. Yeah, it's been interesting, and what happened to all the SEC teams that we knew about? There were like 5 or 6 of them in this thing. They all kind of flamed out fast.
Well, Rick, it just means more.
Apparently not. What's interesting, and there's no way around this, right? The Alabamas and even the Georgias to some extent, and others. Now we're starting to see teams like Vanderbilt and Indiana get good, right? And part of it is obviously Kirk Cignetti is special. He brought players, and to your point that you informed me, that not any 5 stars. These are guys that he recognizes talented that maybe recruiting services did not. Having said all
guys,
that,
or guys that just developed and
or just developed late
and worked,
yeah,
and,
right.
I mean,
he had a lot to do with their success. Absolutely.
I mean, they say only about 60. I was reading something today, and I can't remember who it was, but it was saying, do the rating systems matter? And they do.
Yeah.
But but only 66%, 67%, that range of 5 stars get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not I mean, you're more likely if you're a 5-star to get drafted.
Yeah.
But it's not a guarantee.
It's just a projection. I mean, you can take that up to the NFL and say, well, how many first rounders actually have good careers in the league, right? It's about 50%.
Yeah.
So it's just a rating. It doesn't guarantee success. It just identifies guys who could be successful. They have skill sets. They have, height, weight, size, speed, whatever. And but it's what you do, how you develop players, and I think that's what Cignetti does is so well, and what he does with that Indiana program. But it's been fun to watch, and I think, what the way they used to do it, man, is like, before this NIL, and still too many people are entering the transfer portal that may not find work, but I can remember going to NFL combines, and I'll be sitting there talking to a couple of defensive linemen, defensive tackle or defensive end from Alabama, and they're top 5 picks. Like, I know they're going in the top 5, top 10. There's no question about it. And they didn't start at Alabama until midway through their junior year because they had somebody sitting in front of them that was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And so they stacked them up, man. The guy was like, you don't understand. Our practices are way more competitive than anybody we play. And I go, yeah, I'm starting to get that now because you didn't start until your junior year. You didn't start until your almost senior year, and it's just incredible. And now if I go to Georgia or I go to Alabama and I find out I'm not going to start, then I'm I may be there a year, and I'm in the portal. I'm gone.
Well, the other thing, and I've been, the transfer portal's open right now, so there's commits going everywhere.
Right.
Bama's losing a lot of commits, like guys they're trying to bring in, because Bama doesn't have the resources that Texas does, or
that's right,
that other schools do. I mean, Bama's got resources, not like
Texas though.
But they don't have Texas. They don't have Texas Tech money. They don't have Oregon money. They don't have.
That's right.
And there's guys they're trying to get in the portal. They're missing out on.
Yeah,
because they don't have the resources now.
Yeah, and that's the great equalizer in college football is going to be even a school like Vanderbilt, which has plenty of doctors and lawyers and whatever rich alumni. They can suddenly compete for this talent.
I mean, Ty Simpson at Bama has announced he's going pro.
Mm-hmm.
Since he's done that, their school's contacting him, trying to get him to enter the transfer portal and offering $6.5 million as the report.
Well, what was the quarterback the other day I saw?
Well, Brendan Sorsby left Cincinnati to go to Texas Tech for
$5 million.
Yeah. Now apparently he owes $1 million back to Cincinnati for leaving early.
Okay. Well, between friends they'll work it out.
Yeah.
But
But they're apparently $6.5 for Ty Simpson's been the reports that schools are trying to get him to enter the transfer portal instead of the draft.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Rocco Beck got some good money to go to Penn State, right?
I'm sure he did, although he's following his coach too. But I'm sure he got paid for it.
Yeah. But, that's the thing. Like, these guys, and some of them are playing college football for 6 years, but with COVID or whatnot, but there's not the incentive, certainly not financial, at least in the rookie contract, to come out early. Now, some guys may try to get into the draft this year because it's after Mendoza and maybe the Oregon quarterback. It's perceived to be a pretty slim pickings when it comes to, top 10 first-round quarterbacks.
The honest truth is you'll make more staying in college than you do going pro. But the quicker you go pro,
the quicker you get to that free agent deal.
That second contract, which is where the money is.
That's where all the money is. Yeah. And the quicker you can start that rather than, use up injuries and, risk yourself for an extra year of college. But I'm sure, the lifestyle is more appealing and everything else.
I mean, there's all that part of it too. But yeah, for short-term money, you could make more in college now if you're going to be a first-round pick. But every year you stay in college, it's one more year till you get to that second contract in the NFL.
That's right.
And ultimately, you hope a third one after that. But
that's right. So who do you like in this game?
Oh, I think Indiana's going to win.
Yeah, even though it's in Miami, right? They get the home field and all that, although there'll be a ton of Indiana fans. They've just been so dominant. I can't see them not winning the game.
I like I said, Miami's offensive line and their defensive line too. But because this is going to be the best defensive line I think Indiana's faced all year.
Right.
And I'm not sure how much pressure they're going to be able to get on Carson Beck.
Mm-hmm.
But Indiana's disciplined. They don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves.
I just trust their quarterback so much more than I trust Beck.
Yep, I agree.
Even though he's played well, I trust him. I know what I'm going to get. And I know what Cignetti's teams are about. So, yeah, it should be a great national championship. And good for the U. Good for them to get back into it after I don't know how many years since they played in one of these, but it's been a minute.
Well, there were people that wanted Cristobal fired after last year.
I know. Well, he was making huge gaffes. What was that one game that they just completely screwed up?
They should have knelt. They didn't. And then.
Yeah. I mean, he's had things like that happen. And plus, I've always said this, like, you're in the ACC and you can't dominate the ACC. I know Clemson's there, but, like, Miami's never won it. As in never.
Yep.
So that's kind of been shocking, but should be a great game. What day is that anyway?
Monday night. We got another week.
Okay. So we got another week to go.
Yep.
And then the Tampa Bay Lightning, they just keep winning. They won 9 in a row now. Beat Philly the other night pretty handily, 6-2, I think it was.
7-2.
7-2.
Yeah, they play Philly again tonight in Philly.
Yeah, which is cool. Cooch was unworldly as he's been.
Yeah, he's just on fire right now. Another 4-point night.
Got the hot stick.
I mean, he started the season like struggling the first 10 games, and now he's third or fourth in the NHL in scoring. Like he's been incredible.
Yeah. Well, they've been incredible as a team. Doesn't seem to matter where they play or who they play.
Yeah. Although John Cooper, I think what he say, 9 games is a fluke, 10's a streak. So
okay, John. 9's a fluke. Okay.
Something like that.
But 10's the real deal. He's done 9. I think they've done 8 or 9, 8 twice, I think, already 8 or 9 twice.
No. They had a 6 game, or was it 7?
Is that
earlier?
the next?
Yeah.
I think it was. I think it was more.
They
than
haven't had a
6.
9-game win streak since the 1920 season. The season that they
2020.
Yeah, the one that they won the Stanley Cup in.
I remember
COVID
that
year,
one.
The COVID year.
Yeah.
That's the last time they had a 9-game win streak. So.
Well, it ain't a fluke. I think it's a real deal, and I still think they're going to get better as they get their players back because they're missing a lot of guys.
No, the hard part is that in the Atlantic Division, they haven't really moved up too much because everybody in the Atlantic's hot right now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Detroit and Toronto and Florida, everyone's hot.
They
right
dropped
now,
a 4th a minute ago. Yeah,
I think they're second right now, but they're a point behind Detroit. But the Lightning have three games in hand. So
yeah. Nah, they're playing great, man. They're playing great. As long as I stay away from Benchmark Arena, they'll be fine.
Well, they're on the road for the next 4, so you have no shot at.
There you go. Almost the back-to-back with Philly. That'll be interesting.
They have Philly, and then they got Pittsburgh Tuesday night, and then they go to St. Louis Friday and Dallas Sunday. So
yeah, nice long road trip.
They're actually coming back though after the Pittsburgh game Tuesday night.
Oh, they'll spend a few nights at home.
Yeah, because they'll practice Thursday morning, then head out to St. Louis. So
that's always nice. Sleep in your own bed.
So get 2 nights in their own bed.
Yeah.
So it's not as long of a road trip as it looks on paper. So.
If you stay on the road, yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got lots to talk about. Obviously, the Bucs are continue these crazy virtual interviews, and eventually they'll bring people in here. I personally think they're just going to kind of wait this whole process out, unless they have somebody that they're competitive with that they want to pull the trigger on. But I still think you have to find out what's happening with Todd Monken. I think you have to find out what's happening with McDaniel. I'm sorry, with Miami. But failing that, they'll continue and eventually have some guys in, I think, to do in-person interviews. And then we'll start to figure out, who's a finalist and not. But, man, 5 years, 5 different coordinators, that is not a recipe for winning. For as much as people, rap on Todd Bowles, and I get it, especially because his defense hadn't played particularly well. But, when you're changing coordinators, and then that's another byproduct of having your defensive head coach. But by the same token, like, these guys aren't all just getting fired. 2 of them have. Byron Leftwich did. Obviously, Grizzard did. But 2 of them became head coaches. So you're basically batting 500, which isn't bad considering. But, you obviously want to hit on this one if you can. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, keep it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Go see our friends at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Check out the NFL watches, as well as watches for your wife, your girlfriend, and just a great place to shop and great customer service as well. When you go, let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.